All right, let's get right into it. If you head over to the coast of Brittany in northwestern France, you'll find one of the greatest prehistoric mysteries on the entire planet. We're talking about a landscape that looks like something from another world, covered with thousands upon thousands of ancient standing stones. And I'm not exaggerating here, this is the largest gathering of these megalithic sites anywhere on Earth. We're not talking about just a few stones. This is literally a forest of granite, stretching for miles across the countryside. The sheer scale of it, it's just hard to wrap your head around. So, just how many are we talking about? Over 3,000 of these prehistoric standing stones, or menhirs as they're called, absolutely dominate this whole area. And get this, each one was carved from local granite and somehow put into place by a people who left behind zero written records. Nothing. Now, to really put this into perspective for you, the main construction period here was way back, around 3300 BC. Okay, so what does that mean? It means these stones are older than Stonehenge. They're older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. We're talking about a history that goes back more than 6,000 years. It's just mind-boggling. And this, of course, brings us to the biggest puzzle of all at Carnac. Just who were these people? Who had the incredible skill and the kind of organized society needed to pull off a project this massive? And why? What on earth was it all for? I mean, these are the questions that have kept historians and archaeologists up at night for centuries. All right, let's look at the most famous part of Carnac, the alignments. These are these incredible, long rows of stones that just march across the landscape. People often describe them as a silent army, frozen in time, and honestly, that's the perfect way to put it. So there are three main groups of these massive stone rows, and many archaeologists think that they might have actually been one single gigantic monument at one point, which just got broken up over the thousands of years. And the numbers here are just wild. You've got the Ménec alignment with more than 1,000 stones laid out in 11 rows that actually converge. Then there's Kermario, which means House of the Dead. That's another 1,000+ stones in 10 columns. And finally, you have Kerlescan. It's a bit smaller, but it still has 555 stones arranged in 13 lines, and it even includes a stone circle. But what's really fascinating is that there's a very clear pattern. This wasn't just random placement. The stones are intentionally arranged by size. You'll find the tallest ones, some are almost 13 feet high, at the western end. Then, as you move east along the rows, they get progressively smaller. This was absolutely deliberate. It was all part of some grand design. So, you have to ask, what was the point of all this? I mean, for centuries, people have thrown out all sorts of theories. Was it a giant astronomical calendar for tracking the sun and the moon? Maybe a sacred pathway for religious ceremonies, a way to mark territory? Well, it turns out the real answer, the biggest clues, weren't found in the stone rows at all. Nope, they were hidden underground. And that brings us to the tombs. Specifically, these huge burial mounds called tumuli that are scattered all around the stone rows. These are what hold the real key to figuring out who built Carnac. Take a look at this. This is the tumulus of Saint Michel. At first glance, you might just think it's a big hill with a little chapel built on top. But you'd be wrong. This whole thing is man-made. It's over 400 feet long and 40 feet high, built from something like 35,000 cubic meters of earth and stone. And deep inside, that's where the secrets of Carnac's rulers were hiding. So what exactly is a tumulus? Well, simply put, it's an ancient burial mound. But listen, these were not for your average person. No way. These were monumental tombs, built to hold the remains of the most powerful, the most elite members of society. They were basically giant statements of power and prestige. So when archaeologists finally started excavating these huge tombs, they had no idea what they were about to uncover. I mean, what they found inside was going to completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about Neolithic Europe. And this is where the story really takes a turn. It stops being just a mystery about stones and becomes a story about a powerful, forgotten civilization. Because the treasures they found in these tombs, well, they speak volumes. Just look at this stuff. Inside the burial chambers, archaeologists found this absolutely stunning jewelry made from a gemstone called callus, which is kind of like turquoise. They also found hundreds of perfectly polished stone axes and all sorts of other ceremonial items. And let me be clear, these weren't everyday tools or simple decorations. Oh no, these were symbols of incredible wealth and power. But here is where the story gets absolutely wild. When scientists analyzed these artifacts, they discovered the materials came from thousands of kilometers away. The jade used for these axes, it was quarried all the way over in the Italian Alps, and the collis for the jewelry, that was imported from what is now southwest Spain. This is proof, hard proof, of a super sophisticated, long-distance trade network operating 6,000 years ago. It's just incredible.
And you can't overstate how valuable these things were. It's estimated that to make just one of the large jade axes like the ones they found, well, it could have taken over 1,000 hours of skilled labor. Think about that. This isn't something your average person owned. This was the kind of stuff reserved for royalty.
So here's the bottom line. All the evidence from these tombs points to a society that was highly structured, with a clear hierarchy. The insane amount of effort, the exotic materials from far away, the sheer scale of everything, it all led researchers to one powerful conclusion. The people buried in these tombs were an elite ruling class. So powerful, in fact, that some researchers have started calling them divine kings. So finally, let's talk about how the meaning of these stones has changed over thousands of years and what their legacy is today.
So today, we believe the original purpose was this massive funerary landscape, right? A huge monument to honor these powerful Neolithic rulers. But as thousands of years went by, that original meaning was lost. So new stories popped up to explain them. Local legends started saying the stones were a Roman legion that the wizard Merlin turned to stone. Another story says they were pagan soldiers, frozen right where they stood by an angry pope. You know, much more colorful stories.
But it's actually pretty sad, because for a lot of recent history, the stones were completely neglected. There are reports from just a few centuries ago of people using them as chicken coops or even breaking them up to build ovens. So many were just taken away to build roads and houses. It's heartbreaking, and it's why some of these incredible alignments are broken up today. And so that's really the story of Carnac. You know, it starts out as this huge mystery. Who could possibly build this and why? And it turns out the answer wasn't in the stones themselves, but buried right nearby, in the tombs of their creators. And what those tombs revealed was a powerful, wealthy, and incredibly organized society that was a major player in Western Europe 6,000 years ago. These stones have stood there for 6,000 years, silent witnesses to history, guarding the memory of the people who built them. And even though we've uncovered this incredible story of the divine kings, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets are these ancient stones still holding on to?